Meet the plant that tastes like a flatbread, looks like a banana tree, and harvests like a root vegetable. The false banana tree, or Enset, is a highly drought-resistant plant that was originally found growing wild across much of eastern and southern Africa. Although this wild variety is bitter and unpalatable, the species was domesticated in Ethiopia roughly 10,000 years ago, and today is relied upon by some 20 million Ethiopians as a staple source of starch. Throughout our recent history, as humans spread across the globe, we domesticated plants for our own purposes, sometimes turning unpalatable or poisonous species into staples upon which we now depend. Enset is a peculiar case. You see, for most crops, success has catapulted them to global recognition. Through trade, migration, and colonization, many species have expanded far beyond their origins. For example, potatoes and tomatoes, which originated in South America, are found almost everywhere on the planet today. It is curious then that Enset, despite a wild distribution across much of Africa, has only ever been used as a crop in Ethiopia, and strangely, has never been widely adopted elsewhere. Towering over their banana cousins, as few as 15 plants could feed a person for a year. It also has flexible planting and harvest times and stores well. This combination of attributes has earned it the name the tree against hunger amongst the communities that grow it. So why then does Enset only grow in such a small region? It likely has something to do with the vast treasure of local knowledge that has formed around the procedures for Enset cultivation and preparation over centuries, now deeply ingrained in the local cultural identity. The thing is, acquiring nutrition from this plant is a fair bit trickier than just peeling a banana, as its berries aren't edible. Instead, harvesting starts by prying the entire plant from the ground. Its trunk, or pseudostem, contains a starchy pith that gets pulped and is fermented for several months until it turns into a calorie-dense carbohydrate called kocho. The liquid squeezed out of the pulp during the process is also consumable, sometimes being turned into bula, which is eaten as a porridge, or saved to recombine with the fermented kocho to turn into one of the many variations of the flatbreads often consumed in the south of the country. Finally, the plant's subterranean growth, also known as the rhizome or amicho, can be cooked like potatoes or yams before eating them. The entire process may seem labor-intensive, but the result is a source of nutrients that is unrivaled, amongst other sources of carbs. Couple that with the fact that the plant can survive for 7 years without water, and you get a reliable food source that can stave off famine during periods of drought. Crucial for the rural communities that lack the amenities found in larger towns and cities. For the Dorze, one of the smallest ethnic groups in Ethiopia, the plant is the literal lifeblood of their communities. Without it, many of them would cease to exist. The fermented kocho features in many of their meals, and to make it, the pulp is placed in a pit in the ground to ferment. The men of the village dig holes about 3 meters deep and 2 meters wide, filling the bottoms with stones that are used for water drainage, followed by kocho doughs covered in Enset leaves, which are compressed with stones from above to further drain the ferments. Not only do they rely on these roots and stems for sustenance, but the entire plant minus the roots can be used to feed their livestock. The fiber left over from the pulping process, alongside the fiber from the leaves, can be used to make rope, twine, baskets, and for general weaving, as well as to make clothes for the community. The fresh leaves also act as crockery and storage vessels for food, and when dried, the fibers are used as building materials to make and maintain their homes. It's not just the rural communities that benefit so heavily from the services that this plant provides, though. Even for city dwellers, perks can be seen beyond a tasty meal. Amongst other things, the dried leaf sheaths can be used as packing material, much eco-friendlier than Western foam plastic and polystyrene. Enset's versatility and hardiness certainly make it a commodity. Kocho and amicho may be used for food, sale, or trade, and the byproduct of the pulping process also has value, as the tough fibers can be turned into a myriad of textile products. But it need not stop at the borders of Ethiopia. Using agricultural surveys and modeling work, scientists have predicted the potential range of Enset over the next 4 decades, finding that the crop could potentially feed more than 100 million people and boost food security in Ethiopia, as well as other African countries, including Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda. Enset might not provide bananas, but it provides just about everything else. And as climate change is predicted to affect the yields of staple crops across the globe, there is growing interest in seeking new plants to feed the world, seeing as we rely so heavily on just a few staples. For reference, nearly half of all the calories we eat come from just 3 species: rice, wheat, and corn. And before it's too late, we need to diversify the plants we use globally, because right now, all of our eggs are in a very small basket. And now you know.